Hello and welcome to another episode of Gameworms. Today I'll be talking about systems in Twilight Imperium 4. So if you saw the overview, which is the episode I made right before this one, I had a map of the galaxy built. I've taken it apart at this point, but I thought since I had everything out, this might be a good time to do an explanation of what the different components are that involve the exploration of the galaxy. Now, when you start the game, you're going to have a home system. So every faction has a different home system. So they don't always start with equal values. This home system will have a symbol in the corner representing the faction, so you know which home system belongs to whom. And we'll have a number of planets from 1 to 3. So most will have 1. This is a 2-planet system. There are a couple that have 3 planets. And you'll notice that every planet has 2 numbers next to it. In this case, Nar, the top planet, has a yellow 2, or a 2 circled by yellow, and then a blue 3, or a 3 circled by blue. And those represent production and influence values. So the yellow is the production value. What production means is how much that planet can be used to pay for something. This is how much work it's doing towards something. So if you're building ships, what's the value that planet can contribute towards your ship construction? Or research is another one. It's typically going to be those 2. The blue value has to do with your influence, your political pull. And primarily this is used in the agenda phase. So when you start voting on things, you can use planets. The influence value would actually be how many votes that planet can put towards an agenda. There are other places where you spend these, but those would be the big ones. So every planet will have a production and influence value. Sometimes it is 0. So for example, Malice over here, which is a weird shape that I'll talk about soon, it's actually got a production of 0. So it's not a very valuable planet in terms of it doesn't have a lot of factories on it, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty decent in terms of the political swing it has. So got lots of maybe high-level bureaucrats live there. Maybe it's a desirable planet for, in terms of strategic placement and things like that. Whatever. However you want to abstract that in. So most of the systems you're going to have on the board in the galaxy are going to be planetary systems. The most popular one, of course, is going to be Mechatol Rex. So Mechatol Rex is kind of the center of the galaxy. That's where the Galactic Council meets. That used to be the center of the Lazax Empire before it fell. And now you're all vying to control it again, so you can be the new rulers over the galaxy. Mechatol Rex has only 1 production, but it has 6 influence. So I believe that's the highest influence of any planet in the game. So if you control that, you have a lot of votes during assemblies. One thing I should mention with your home system as well, before I stray too far, that you also, in most cases, you need to have your home system in order to score any points in the game. If you don't control your home system, you can't claim points. There is one faction that doesn't apply to. Other planets have other different features. So, for example, your home planets don't have this, but you'll notice the other planets will have symbols. So Lodor here has a blue kind of a ring. And then we have a couple more planets here. So New Albion has a green gear shape. And Starpoint has a red, kind of a triangle. And what these are planet types. So a blue planet is a cultural planet. So this is a planet where the people of that planet focus a lot on the arts and things like that. And that will affect an exploration deck, which I'll talk about in a second. New Albion here, the green gear, is an industrial planet. So a lot of focus on production, factories, mining, things like that. And Starpoint, the red triangle, has a focus. It's a hazardous planet. So this means maybe there's lots of volcanoes and earthquakes and things like that. But each planet type, there are going to be laws and our action cards that apply specifically to a planet type. So for example, you might have a card that causes some sort of a hazard on a hazardous planet. Maybe we'll kill an infantry there or something. But with the expansion, Prophecy of Kings, they introduced exploration decks. And that's these over here. So every time you take a planet, a neutral planet, so a planet that didn't already belong to somebody, you are going to draw a card from its corresponding planet type. So let's say I land troops on Lodor for the first time. I can draw one of these cultural cards. And so this one, for example, place a gamma wormhole token in this system, then purge this card. Well, that's very timely. So here's a gamma wormhole, and that would go on, we said that was Lodor. And Lodor, look, it already had a wormhole, which I'll explain shortly. Now it's got another one. Let's say my troops landed on New Albion, the industrial planet. I would draw something from the industrial deck. I don't know if they're shuffled, so I'm going to cut the deck a little bit. Oh, look, I found an industrial relic fragment. You can collect these fragments in order to find powerful relics, which I'll also explain very shortly here. And then Star Point, we send some troops down to a hazardous planet. What do I find here? Okay, attached to this planet. So this is an attached card. So what I would do is I'd find this planet's planet card, which I'll also have to explain shortly. And the resource value is increased by 2. So in this case, Starpoint already had a resource value, production value of 3. And this would actually increase it to a 5. So a very productive planet. And what you do is you would tuck it like this. So you'd have 3 resource plus 2. And I've been calling that production, but, you know, resources. All right, so well, that brought up a lot of more interesting information there. Is these planet cards. So every planet will have a corresponding card. And the card will, like the planet itself, have the same values on it, like in a picture. But what's important about it is that you can flip it over. So this side here, you can see the planet is in full color. But if you flip it over, the image of the planet is in black and white. So when the planet is face up, we say that it's refreshed. And what refreshed means is it's able to be spent. You can spend it for its resource or influence value. You can't spend both. When you spend it, you flip it over. And that shows that the planet is exhausted. So an exhausted planet cannot be spent until it is refreshed, which usually happens in the status phase. Now, some of these planets have some other symbols, and we've already pulled out the wormholes, so I'll talk about those next. The wormholes, so there are 4 kinds of wormhole. We got alpha wormholes, are orange, and they have what looks like an A in it. That's the alpha. We have the beta wormholes, which are green. We have delta wormholes, which are blue, and there's only 2 on the board. And the gamma wormholes, which are purple. And when I was drawing those cards, you'll notice that I saw that I had a card that found a gamma token, and so I added this to the board. So Lodor originally was adjacent to an alpha wormhole, but when we were exploring the area, we happened to come across a delta wormhole, a gamma wormhole. And what these wormholes do is they make any system with those wormholes are considered adjacent to each other. So if I have a ship here in the Lodor system, I can fly through it and go straight to this Malice system because it also has a gamma wormhole. One that's a little bit different than the others is the Creus Ghosts home system. So you'll notice their home system, it's actually got a weird shape to it. That means it's not on the board. Just like Malice got that weird shape, these are planets that kind of live in other dimensions. So you can't fly there directly. You have to go through a wormhole. And in the case of the Creus planet, you have to go through what they call the Creus Gate. And that's a delta wormhole that connects to their home planet. Likewise, Malice can only be approached the first time by a gamma wormhole, but once somebody enters the system, it opens up to have 3 wormholes, an alpha, a beta, and a gamma. All right, so so you can fly very quickly between all of these systems. There are also, you'll notice, several systems that have red borders, and these are called anomalies. And I've got 4 types of anomalies here. The first one is a gravity rift. And a gravity rift is kind of a black hole. You can kind of see the Coruscant, the Corona, I said Coruscant, but there's kind of like a corona there over a black hole. And what these are systems that make it very dangerous to fly through. So you can try to fly through the system, and you'll gain a speed to any ship that's going through it, but as you exit, there's a 30% chance each ship will explode. You've got nebula, And what nebula are is kind of a big cloud in space, and those are difficult to navigate. So you can't fly through nebula, and when you leave a nebula, you can only move one space regardless of your ship speed. But if you're hiding in a nebula, or you have ships in there, and somebody attacks you, you get a bonus to defense, because you're hard to see, I guess. You got asteroid fields, which you cannot navigate, so you have to go around them until you get a specific technology. There's a technology that lets you enter them or go through them, but until you have that, it's a blocked space. And that one's a supernova, and you cannot ever go through a supernova. So it's kind of like the asteroid field, except there's no technology that will ever let you go through the supernova. There is, however, a faction that can fly through them. And I'll talk about those when I cover the factions. So I think that pretty much covers everything on the tile. Oh, except for one thing. So some planets will also have a little technology symbol, which you won't recognize yet unless you've already, in some future time I'll be doing a technology episode. And they give you technological research passes. So I'll explain that more when we cover technology and research, but just be aware some planets will also help with research and development. In addition to the cards that I've drawn here, the exploration cards, there's another type of exploration deck, and that is empty space. So some planets, any system that has no planet, at the beginning of the game you place these tokens on, and those are Final Frontier tokens. You need to have a special technology to be able to explore those systems, but if you have that technology, then you can draw from this deck. And this can have things like a merchant station. You can replenish commodities, something I haven't talked about yet, but will in another video. Or you can replenish your commodities for trade goods. So there's different things you can find. And one of those things you can find is actually another planet. So this is kind of a hidden planet called Mirage. And let's say I explored this token and I found the Mirage card. I'd actually put that there. So it becomes a planetary system. There's a few other tokens I've put out. This one, let's start with this one. So this is an ion storm. This is something else you can find through exploration. It's basically a wormhole that flips every time somebody uses it. So if you fly through this as a beta wormhole, it becomes an alpha wormhole. And there is, I'll talk about this card here. There are 4 planets in the game that are legendary planets. Legendary planets come with an extra card. So they have a regular planet card, but in the Prophecy of Kings expansion, they provided 4 legendary planets, which come with a second card. And what this card is a special ability. And I've pulled out the one for Malice here. And Malice, this planet, is the home of the Extrix headquarters. And what this does is it gives the planet a special ability that you can use once per round. So in this case, you may exhaust this card at the end of your turn to gain 2 trade goods or convert all of your commodities to trade goods. So it's kind of a money-making planet there. Mirage is also a legendary planet, but I didn't pull its card to show you. And I guess the last couple things I'd like to show is the relic deck. So we looked before that when we were in when we were exploring our industrial planet, we found an industrial relic fragment. If you ever find 3 of the same kind of relic fragment, you can cash those in as an action for a relic card. So relic cards are kind of unique items that you can get through exploring. So for example, I could have cashed these in to get the Prophet's Tears. When you research a technology, you may exhaust this card to ignore one prerequisite or draw an action card. So basically this helps you advance your research a little more quickly or get some action cards. The most interesting one, maybe not the most powerful, but scary one, is the Stellar Converter. And the reason I'm pulling this one is because I have this token here. So the Stellar Converter lets you choose one non-home, non-legendary planet other than Mechatol in a system that is adjacent to one or more of your units that have bombardment. So there are certain large ships that you can control that have a bombardment ability. And that means they can bomb planets. So as long as you're adjacent, you're in an adjacent system with with a ship with that ability, you can blow up one of the planets in an adjacent system. As long as you're not blowing up, you can't blow up home planets, legendary planets, or Mechatol. But if I had a ship like a Dreadnought or a War Sun adjacent to Lodor here, I could use my Stellar Converter. It only has one use. And you'd put this on top of it to show that that planet was blown up. And you remove its card from the game. Okay, and then the last one I think I haven't talked about is this demilitarized zone. So there are, I think this comes from an agenda, but basically you can have a vote, which would, you'd elect a planet to become demilitarized, and this token goes there to show that troops can never land on it. So basically that it can never really change hands through military means. All right, so I think that about covers it for the systems. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I guess I'll see you in the next episode.